Hi, my name is Michael. This is my presentation on cashless in Japan. I've been intern here at Tokyo FinTech Association for the past 7 weeks. So basically about my presentation, I've taken on a personal project of going a week cashless in Japan. And I originally thought of this idea whenever I arrived in Japan. I found myself sort of filled and only using cash. And this presentation is sort of a compilation of my own personal experiences here, coupled with my experiences in the US, as well as research that I have done about Japanese consumer preferences for cashless payment systems. So, who am I? My name is Michael Sunderland. I am a University of Oregon accounting student. I will be a senior in the fall. This is a picture of my university's campus. This is our business building, and here's me within our business building having fun learning. So what will I be talking about today? Cash has many different purposes, but I will be focusing on payments. Many countries have been racing towards cashless payment systems for a while now. Sweden and Canada have been leading the way with adoption rates near 80%. But Japan has been falling behind in a way, with 19% of payments being cashless. Japan has a history of being conservative, so we have to ask ourselves, does Japan really want to change to being cashless? Is this right for the consumer, the government, and businesses, or is it only right for some of these people? Abe wants to change this, and he has created a roadmap intending to take Japan to 40% cashless by 2025. So, what's my life like at home? Here you can see 3 of my preferred payment methods in the United States: my debit card, Venmo, which is a peer-to-peer transfer service, and cash. I use my debit card about 90% of the time within the US. I use it for most daily purchases and is my preferred payment method. I will only use Venmo in certain instances where I or someone else uses their debit card to pay them back. It is a way for friends to pay each other for things that they owe them for. Cash, I actually use incredibly rarely. There is one place in the US where I use cash, which is the Saturday market, where debit cards and Venmo are not accepted. So, what's my life like in Japan here? Well, it's very different. As you can see, there is a ton of cash on this slide, and that's for a reason. Cash dominates my daily life in Japan, and it has since I've arrived. It is not, however, the only payment method that I use. I also use my debit card to pull out cash. I use Venmo between my American friends for the same reasons I said previously. And I also used Apple Pay pretty consistently during my week going cashless in Japan. It is effectively your card, but you miss some of the transaction fees that you would if you straight up used your card. The main point that I would like to show is Pasmo and Suica. This is a very popular payment system within Japan, which is primarily used for rail systems, but is also accepted at convenience stores and other places. So, my cashless experience in Japan, I faced some difficulties. Some of these difficulties include Line Pay not accepting American cards. Line Pay is a popular mobile-based payment system here in Japan, and not having access to some of the services that native Japanese people might have access to was one of my main difficulties. Some environments also just happen to be easier to pay for in cash, and fees associated when I did use cashless were high. This was sort of exacerbated by me not being from here and not having a Japanese card, but fees are still high even for Japanese citizens. My main issue actually was that I couldn't go to some of my favorite mom and pop places. There's this little French bakery right by where I live, and they only accept cash, so I went a week without that bakery. Based on my difficulties, these are what I feel would make a system desirable to Japan. These include security, convenience, lack of fees, cheap installation, ease of use, and easy to track payments and spending. Security is valued in Japan because, well, cash is viewed as safe here. It is safe to carry almost anywhere, and it does not lose value. Convenience, Japan needs to see a reason to change to a cashless system, and being able to leave your house without coins would honestly be very valuable, and it would also allow payments to occur quicker, which could be useful. Lack of fees, retailers are unlikely to adopt systems with significant service fees and surcharges. And this also builds on to cheap installation. There are lots of sort of mom and pop or very small businesses in Japan that can't afford $1,000 or $2,000 US to pay for a cashless terminal. Ease of use is also important. Japan has an aging population that needs to be able to understand cashless systems pretty easily and intuitively for it to be adopted. And also, the same aging population values knowing where their money is going very heavily. So being able to track your payments and spending easily is valuable. So some current common cashless options globally include all of these. Global cashless options include things like debit cards, credit cards, QR codes, prepaid cards, and more recently cryptocurrencies. Which cashless option is preferred is strongly dependent on the country or area that you are from. For example, credit cards are very popular in the US and debit cards are popular in Europe. QR codes have also become popular in emerging markets such as China and India, where there isn't very much existing infrastructure. These preferences are all based on what a country's population needs or wants in a payment system. So no one payment system is the best option for the entire globe. It needs to be specialized for the area where it's being deployed. So I'm going to talk about a couple of options that can meet Japanese consumers' needs well. The first one that I would like to talk about is the expansion of the Suica and Passmo network. It is already highly adopted in Japan, is very similar to cash, and it has the potential to expand locations offered. Beyond this, spending is also easy to track on your Passmo or Suica. You receive the balance every time you get on or off the train, and you also get a receipt every time you spend money at 7-Eleven or another convenience store. Beyond that, it also maintains its value. 1,000 yen will stay 1,000 yen on your Passmo, and because Japan does not have high inflation, it's going to stay at the same purchasing power of the 1,000 yen that you put it on originally. The second option that I'd like to discuss is QR codes. It is popular in emerging markets such as China and India for its lack of needing a lot of infrastructure set up. All that you need to set up your QR code is your mobile phone device and a QR code of the person that you are paying, and you're good to go. It is also easy to track your spending because all of the payments are made through your bank account, so you can simply look at your bank statement to understand how much you're spending. It is also highly secured. Your data is never passed through the retailer's network, so they never actually see your data, so it is safe. Who actually benefits from Japan going cashless? I would say that the first person that would benefit would be the government through taxation. Japan has an issue with the cash economy that they currently have, where payments and payments received are not easily trackable. So it's easy to avoid taxation here in Japan currently. The government stands to benefit from cashless payment systems because this would remove many of these avenues that currently allow tax evasion to occur. It is also going to be convenient for the consumer, so the consumer will benefit in some ways. If you don't need to carry around cash and all you need to have is the phone that you currently have, then the consumer benefits because it means less stuff in their pockets. Security is also a concern. If you know that your money is going to be there tomorrow, then you don't need to worry about hiding it under your mattress. You will also see economic growth during transition from increased spending as you move towards cashless. In other countries, it has been shown that transitioning to cashless increases spending in the economy, which will allow for GDP growth in the short term. You will also see, as a government, less black market crime and a shrinking of the informal economy, because if you remove cash, it is harder to make these payments that are gray market or not condoned by the government if the only way you can do it is by trading a Rolex or something else like that. The banking service and industry will also stand to benefit heavily from moving towards cashless. This means that less banking locations are needed per capita for things like deposits, and it also means saving on cost of cash for the government. Mizuho Bank has estimated that Japanese banks will save 1 trillion yen per year, or approximately $9.6 billion on transitioning to cashless. This would also actually open up the regulators' sort of sandbox a bit. of what economic tools they have to manipulate the economy, in that it could also allow interest rates to dive further negative if there's sort of overheating in the economy and you need to slow it down. Currently, because there is so much cash in Japan, this doesn't necessarily work, because if you lowered interest rates too far, people are just going to pull their cash out and put it underneath their mattress. So, some options that I could see working for Japan in the future that meet these needs are basically blockchain derived. The future is about disruption, and going forward this likely involves blockchain in some way, shape, or form. Cryptocurrencies and blockchain have the power to disrupt the cash preferences of Japan because of a couple of key reasons. Blockchain is capable of providing lower fees, increased transaction history and security, is transferable anywhere with a cell phone, and is convenient, assuming you get that higher rate of adoption that would come with mass adoption of the product. The primary negative of blockchain actually is difficulty in learning how to use cryptocurrencies. In its current state, purchasing and using cryptocurrencies is difficult for the average person to understand, let alone an older generation. So this is a need that needs to be met for this system to possibly work. Some payment system examples of this include Bitcoin, Ethereum, Orbs, and PumaPay. Orbs and PumaPay are actually built onto Ethereum, and they meet things like allowing for microtransactions that Ethereum does not currently meet. I'd like to do a quick comparison of some of the limitations or needs that need to be met between Japan and the US for a true cashless transition. I have spent some time here and I've seen these different needs firsthand in Japan and obviously during my time in the US. So this is a little bit of personal experience coupled with my research. In Japan, cash is viewed as very safe. A cashless system must therefore prove that it is as safe or safer for it to be adopted. The US has the same need for security, but it comes from sort of a different perspective in that current cashless systems in the US are not safe. There's lots of fraud in the US, so therefore a secure system for cashless payments would be quite valuable. In Japan, another need that needs to be met is low fees and cheap installation. So you don't want to have too much installation costs in Japan, or else the producers and retailers will not adopt it. In the US, we actually already have a heavily cashless society, but we would enjoy the lower fees that come from future payment options. In Japan, convenience and ease of tracking your spending would also be very valuable. This primarily applies to older generations that would like to keep track of their money a bit more. And in the US, I don't think that this is maybe so much of a concern. We've already seen credit card use in the US where people rack up lots of debt, so maybe it's not the most important part of a cashless system in the US. In conclusion, cash represents safety and security in Japan. Cashless adoption may not actually be as beneficial for the consumer as one may think, but big business and government will definitely benefit. Future cashless payment technologies such as Bitcoin have the potential for significant disruption. The primary perceived issue of cashless systems in Japan are cost and security concerns, and for a cashless payment system to be adopted here, you need to meet these concerns. My experience going cashless was more difficult because I do not live in Japan full-time, so therefore lots of the services and cashless options that may have been available to me were not. Going 90% cashless in Tokyo is actually already very doable for the average Japanese citizen. And my own personal view for the future of Japan is that I don't think we're going to hit the 40% cashless mark by 2025, but I think we're going to get darn close. I would also like to just finish by stressing that Japan is a successful nation built on a conservative mindset. This includes financial and economic policies, and these ideas might actually in fact have some merit. So I feel like time will tell if cashless is actually the right move for Japan.